and gentlemen. We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. What I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm really looking forward to today's episode because, we're not talking about the market. We're not talking about a lot of the prototypical stuff we do. We're talking about marketing, digital marketing. And in my opinion, this guy is the OG of digital marketing inside the transportation space, because he's been doing it for 15 years now, if not longer at this point. So I'd like to welcome my friend Adam Robinson back on the show. Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here today.
Man, Chris, it's great to be back on with you. It has been maybe a couple years since I've been on, and it makes me feel old. Your new hype music is totally awesome. So great, great job. I love the new intro. But yeah, I've been doing the new marketing in this space first at Ceresis, the 3PL, about 15 years ago. So, now I have the agency, of course, the Robinson Agency. We're about to rebrand pretty soon to the Logistics Marketing Agency. So look out for that pretty soon. I'll put it on LinkedIn. It'll look like I changed jobs, and it'll be awesome. But we decided to name ourselves what we do, right? So love being in this industry, and you're the OG of podcast and LinkedIn Live. So, we're just OGs hanging out.
Dude, I love it. And it's true. I was thinking about this before, earlier today, Adam, where it was like, man, you were one of the first people on the digital marketing side of things that reached out to me early on when I was doing it. Kind of like, hey, I love what you're doing. Keep going and keep pushing with it, because it's true, man. I look back, because this is episode 1509 at this point. I've been doing this for over 6 years, and the evolution of content, and even outside of FreightWaves, there's not anybody left who's doing it at the level that I am. And for me, it's just dude, this is a passion that I never knew I had until I started doing it. And I just love sitting down and talking with people about their expertise in their vertical inside of the industry, and how we can just continue to put the right content out there. Because I feel to me, my biggest battle on the digital media side of things isn't other people creating content. It's the rise in fake content that you can leverage out there, and you can make yourself sound really good with no experience. And again, it's it almost ties in my original fight when I first started creating content is I'm all these people are trying to create courses. They take a course, try and create a course to sell a product on something they've never done before. And it's now we're back there 6 years later, but now it's just all AI.
Yeah. And it really points out a fundamental thing. And I really want to hit on something you said about getting started and how long you've been doing this and how long I've been doing this. When I started at Ceresis, I really knew about SEO, and I knew the industry wasn't doing search engine optimization at all. And I knew the way to win in search engine optimization was to just hit publish.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to spell LTL before I got that job. That's what I tell people. But I was tasked with marketing a company whose core focus as a brokerage was on the LTL space. So I had to a little bit fake it till I make it. But what I had to govern me was a brand message from Ceresis. And at that time, we really focused in on messaging. In fact, that's probably the first thing any personal brand or any company should do. You need to understand your tone, how you want to talk to the market, the words you don't want to say, what's your value, what are your audience's struggles, and how do you help them overcome those struggles with helpful content that's genuine and authentic. And that's no different than your personal brand or your company page. We're getting into a lot of executive newsletter writing, a lot of executive posts. As you said, the age of AI, one of the most critical components for any company or person today is to come across as a human being. Mm-hmm. And when we got started back in the day in content marketing at Ceresis, we wrote things like the top 10 tips for LTL shipping, 5 things to look out for in freight damage. And that worked, right? In traditional SEO. But with the rise of these LLM platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, and the like, you have to start putting a point of view and expertise out there. But then if the price of content is zero, how do you sound different? So there's a number of frameworks that I recommend that people go out there and try and put some messaging together. And we're happy to help you with this as well if you need some help. But, ask yourself, what is your value? If you were at a dinner, how would you describe what you do? Just kind of start thinking about what you can do that's just different. And, put that into a core messaging, document and really spin off your content ideas from that. And that's the only way you can sound different. You can't just go to AI and say, I'm a 3PL in Kansas City, write me a messaging document. That's the fastest way to sound like anybody else. And if you sound like anybody else, nobody pays attention. And so give us your point of view and use your executives to humanize your brand. And I'm telling you, and you and I both know this, Chris, as an executive, as a CEO, it's hard to put yourself out there. But when you do, people start to pay attention. And 95% of all of us are passive content readers anyway. Even if we don't engage with it, we're seeing that brand message, right? And so when you have that newsletter and you have a social media distribution platform, you put yourself on podcasts like this, you can start building your personal brand and putting yourself out there. And people buy from people at the end of the day. If somebody thinks that you're interesting, thought-provoking, are relevant to what they have to hear, they're going to reach out to you when they have a need. And that's about the best you can do. And I tell clients all the time, you want to be in business for the next 3 years, right? Yeah. Do you want it to be harder or easier in 3 years to make sales? Well, easier. You have to start today. And Chris, I know you lost a lot of weight. I did too recently. You don't just stop eating and that's the way you lose weight.
Yeah.
You got to exercise. You got to work every day. You got to put in the reps and the discipline of waking up early or whatever you have to do. It's the same thing with your brand and with marketing. There is no easy button. Inbound leads are few and far between. But if you can build relationships with people, build community, and differentiate yourself with your message and really challenge yourself to do that and put content out there that you think is interesting, people are going to pick it up. And when they have a need, they're going to remember you.
No, it's very accurate, right? Like I look back and to be honest, man, I've been thinking a lot here, back about like, how do I continue to prove that I'm a human being? I'm almost like, dude, how do I do my podcast from my iPhone, right? Like, how do I make it like remove the studio setting behind it? Because it's very easy to create an environment now. And like, dude, like the sound, everything, it's very easy to fabricate that. So it's like, I'm always trying to think of ways like, how do I get ahead of this? How do I do something that other people, A, aren't thinking of, or B, aren't willing to do? And that's why it's like for my content strategy of it, because like it's all, whether it's your personal brand that feeds into your company brand or whatever, I think like what you said, to summarize what you had said, like, hey, proving you're an actual human being is going to be way more beneficial than a polished marketing campaign out there, where it's like, the companies that I have all funnel, right? Like the Freight Coach and Freight Coach Logistics is one and the exact same, right? It's me, and people are going to buy from me, so it's like, I have to make it be unapologetically about myself. And it's like, looking back at when I started doing all of this stuff 6 years ago, the evolution of the show, it's a lot more structured and rigid now because like I've had to build a system around it, right? Like I put out a lot of episodes, right? Like we go live 5 days a week out here. So it's like, you can't just run and gun if you're going to create something at the level that I do, or is at the level that I think a lot of people need to from a content creation strategy. But dude, there is so much like cheap software out there where it looks like I'm posting all the time on platforms, but it's all scheduled posts, right? So it's like, I take my core base episode here, 30 minutes. I have a team behind the scenes that chops it up and schedules clips on all platforms now to where it's like a constant drip. And then I also change it up and I'll record things on my cell phone, right? Like a minute rant about the real side of entrepreneurship, because it's like, again, there's another push about like how easy building a business is and everything else, where it's like, yeah, it might be for others, but for me, it's hard. And I want to talk about that because I want people to resonate, where it's like, hey, if you're having a rough month or 6 months, like, you're not the only one going through it. There's a community of real operators out here who are trying the exact same things you are. And I just want to document that journey along the way.
Yeah, making decisions in a company and being a leader is a lonely place to be. And so, if if they feel like they have a human out there who's speaking their problems and empathizing with them and making them think, they'll create that connection. And I'll say brand is who you are, right? And marketing is what you do. Meaning, when you sit back as a person individually and you ask yourself, what am I really about? What are my values? What matters to me? How do I want to convey myself in the public? Who am I? And I'll say, and you kind of reinforce this, just be you. You started a company for a reason, to solve a problem or give something of value out into a community. Say that. Talk about those challenges. Say what you saw that was inefficient or broken that you need to fix. And there's a gentleman, Beagle Technologies, Eric Williams,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
What I love about him is he's really authentically himself.
Correct.
And I would never ever purchase Beagle Technologies because I'm a marketer. No offense, Eric. I just don't move any freight or have RFPs. But I tell you what, if somebody asked me if they needed that, I'd think of Eric Williams, because he's consistently out there. And his brand is that he's kind of a no BS kind of guy, straight down the middle. Facts are facts. I'll tell you how it is. He's even shared personal things of his life and some of the health issues he's had, and that humanized him. And back in the day, people would have been like, you can't share that stuff on LinkedIn. That's not professional or whatever. And the reality is that that's what people want to read. That's what we connect to. We connect to that brand and who he is, but we stay reminded about him because he does it. He shows up. He executes. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing necessarily when I did one blog a day, but I committed to one blog a day and I never wavered. And then once I got that solid, I said, okay, let's do a podcast. When I got that solid, I said, okay, let's do some videos. When I got that solid, I said, okay, let's do some PR stuff, right? And in the age of AI, and I have some clients in the space that are AI logistics tech companies, and it's interesting that you can sell all of these things in AI, but if you don't remind yourself that these are people who have to use these tools, just like the exercise, the treadmill or exercising equipment, it's just a tool. And if you don't get that person to use the tool, you're not going to get the value out of it. So you got to start one thing at a time. Commit to it. And I would say the biggest thing you can do to commit right now is a messaging exercise. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put a link on this episode to how we go about doing our messaging. And it's going to include 5 examples of a messaging document. In there, there'll be an example from a freight tech company. These are made up companies, by the way. So I made them up. RoadSync. It's the company I made up for freight tech. There's a forwarder example. There's a broker example. There's a 3PL example. So definitely check, and a carrier example, sorry. Definitely check those out, and I'll leave that for you guys to take a look at. But if you can nail that, it's almost like the execution is easy. What the messaging document should do, like a trainer, is give you a plan. And in that plan, you can go off and build a content strategy, a social strategy, a campaign strategy, and then it can give you and build it into the next step, which is a content engine, a social engine, and a campaign engine. And then you have to go and execute. And if you can get yourself a project management tool between messaging and execution and kind of categorize it in that kind of project management tool, boom, you're off to the races. And that can be a Google sheet. It doesn't have to be something fancy. But just do it, right? Once you figure out who you are, your brand, then go and do marketing.
Mhm. No, I love it. Brett Bell had a question on YouTube. He had said, what is the biggest advantage of utilizing a 3PL over going direct with LTL carriers? And I'll answer it from a broker perspective if you want to take it from like a marketing perspective, Adam. But like for me, the biggest advantage of going with a 3PL over going direct to an LTL carrier is sometimes, depending on the size of the brokerage, they can leverage their entire network of customers that get a better price from LTL carriers as opposed to a singular shipper going direct. They're only looking at you as the amount of volume that you can give them to reflect their pricing, where a broker who might move a lot of LTL across their entire network, the carriers give them better pricing because there's more of a volume play of going with it. So that is sometimes the advantage of going direct through an LPL, a 3PL, excuse me, as going to an LTL carrier.
Yeah, and I think if you're marketing yourself as a 3PL in that situation, you say, well, we've built the desks and the tech stack to handle the exceptions that will invariably happen or could happen. Do you want to be the person on the phone at 2 a.m.? You do not. But additionally, we'll give you a taste of what working with the 3PL looks like, and we'll earn your business. But what we can then provide is a network analysis using our amazing tech stack we've been able to invest in because of our resources, and start looking at things like lower total cost of ownership or cost of goods sold, to where you can start looking at price per SKU in relation to your transportation costs, and start understanding, what your products cost in that shipping environment. So, and in an age where truckload costs are getting wild, LTL might be a good option these days too.
You know, I I got a question here, Adam, and this is more of like for the brokerage community and talking about messaging and everything else, because it's like I see a lot of the old school tactics as like what they're trying to like almost force back into acceptance, right? Like, hey, we got capacity everywhere. We can find you a better rate and everything else. And I look at things. I'm trying to take a contrarian point of view as I'm building up my book of business and I'm building up my brokerage. Is as I look at it, is I'm like, all right, the biggest complaint I see throughout the entirety of my 15 plus year career as a freight broker, the number one issue that I can deduce it all down to is brokers suck at communication. That is why the shippers do not like working with them, because there is we don't own the trucks, and then like over these last couple of years, they've been trying to create new terms to like make them sound like an asset provider, but not be. Where I'm like, no, dude, I'm a straight up freight broker through and through. We do not own trucks at all. I've deduced it down to this, man. Like, I'm a hospitality company that happens to move freight. All right.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of guests, shippers, receivers, customers, carriers. I need to make them all feel like they are the only person in the world when I'm interacting with them. Because as a broker, I got to find a way to make all parties win, right? Like, I got to win. I got to make money in the transaction. Driver has to make money. Shipper has to make money. So how do I massage all of that out there? And I bring up communication as the number one issue, because I have yet to meet a shipper who has said, hey, our providers are top tier communicators. They let us know what's going on at any and all times. And that's our greatest strength as a company, right? Like, good, bad, or indifferent, you are going to know exactly what's going on with your freight at all times, no matter what, without fail. Because like, I can't control weather, I can't control capacity, I can't control traffic, but I can control how many updates I send you. I can control letting you know exactly what's going on. So it's like, I look at today's environment with AI, with automation. Why are people not marketing that? Like, dude, I can give you complete visibility in your shipments at all times.
I think that's becoming more and more, and particularly, I think that message of just taking care of your customer is going to start percolating, and you'll start seeing more and more of that. Because unfortunately, Montgomery, Caribe, 85% of volume in freight brokerage is done by, I don't know, 2,000 freight brokers total, maybe, right? Maybe more, 90%. I think in the next 5 years, because of the barrier to entry, With these verdicts from C.H. Robinson, including the $604 million one, shipper liability could be on the table, right? So it's going to be expensive to be a freight broker, but you'll also see shippers start using freight brokers more to be taken care of. Like who really wants to deal with those compliance issues? A brokerage does, and the good ones will start to take market share. I think we're going to reduce. I think we'll see a 30% reduction in the number of freight brokerages in the next 5 years.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, Adam. I've actually been saying that on the show here for probably the last 6 months now, that brokers in this next market shift, i.e., what we're experiencing right now, are going to get crushed. And unfortunately, it's not going to be for anything other than margins are thin enough as is in a brokerage, right? Like I know there's people out there who think brokers make like 100% on every single load, but you know, your point there, like 90% of the freight is controlled by a handful of brokers. The majority of that all happen to be publicly traded, and you can see where their margins are, right? It's very, very well publicized. Not to say that there aren't some anomalies out there that can operate more lean, but I look at where things are, right? Like rates shot up a lot here from the beginning of the year to where things are right now. Customers are willing to pay it as long as the service remains that way, right? You can't charge more money and have worse service. All right. That just does not work across any vertical. Where, to your point here, Adam, market share is going to start to get swallowed up a lot. And then people are there, like brokerages are not going to be willing to lose money over the long term to service an account, right? Like there are organizations out there that will not take losses on loads to service the account. Unfortunately, those companies' days, I feel, again, I could be wrong, are going to be numbered, because the tolerance for failure when you go, because there's still ample capacity on the road. I don't care what anybody says. No, I do not move every single lane in North America. There is still ample capacity on the road. If you are not willing to service your customer right now in this time, their tolerance for your inability to do your job is going to be at an all-time low, because like every shipper says, I have 100 brokers calling me every day, every week, every month, whatever that looks like. There is not a shortage of people out there. And when you go from ample capacity, freight moving nonstop, pretty easy, to any disruptions, people, I mean, most of us have a 10-second Tom memory, right? Shout out to the movie 50 First Dates, where it's like people only remember the last day, right? They don't remember anything else. And if you can't come up and provide, dude, you're out. Like there's no point in keeping you around.
Yeah, you got to show up every day. And I think, any industry moving forward is going to be in the service industry, no matter what you sell. I mean, let's take a look at Happy Robot, right? Yesterday raised 150 million, 1.2 billion valuation. Do you know how they make sure Happy Robot's successful at their customers? They do this new thing called a forward deployed engineer. Fancy term to say somebody who is from Happy Robot's going to work in your location for a long period of time to ensure you use Happy Robot correctly. And it brings it back to AI, right? The broker's job moving forward, if they can afford doing business in this environment, is to now make their own companies as efficient as possible so that they can get their people's time reduced on menial tasks and instead focused on building better carrier and customer relationships and being able to focus in on what matters. Like you said, visibility, being able to nail those exceptions when they occur and providing that service almost instantaneously. And so that's the 3PLs and the brokers that are going to gain the market share in the future. They have to be able to say, what am I? What is my value? And I can hear from you, Chris, your value is to make your customer feel like they're always taken care of and that you're always going to be there for them, whether you're you or one of your teammates, in those times of need, because that's your value prop. I almost have the same value prop if you think about it, meaning my customers, my point of contacts who are tasked with growing revenue, marketing their companies, etc., it's overwhelming sometimes for these folks in-house. And the agency has such a deep experience across the board, across many different kinds of companies, just like as a freight broker across many different types of freight, right? You've seen this a time or two, and you can give them that comfort and say, hey, Janet, I got you. I've seen this before. Don't worry. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm going to get it going. Once I get the approval or the verification, you'll be the first to know. And you can go home for the day. I've got this. And I'll call you in the morning. And isn't that, and it's not that much different than any other service business. If you can't do that, if you can't make a customer feel like they got me, and that comes back to that messaging, who are you? Are you an empathetic person? Do you give a damn? Or are you just trying to make a margin? And if you're in brokerage to just make a margin, you might want to look in the mirror.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Like I often say, I can teach anybody anything they want to know about freight. I can't teach a give a fuck. Either you want it or either you care or you don't, right? Like it's a very fine line. And maybe it's just because I'm older now, Adam, and I look at life a little bit differently, but there are just two camps of people. Either you care about your job or you don't care about your job. There's no in between. Not saying you can't go from one side of the fence to the other, right? Like you could care about your job today. You might wake up tomorrow and not, right? Then it's on you to find what you actually care about. But I look at the environment we're in today. You were talking about lean operations, menial tasks, eliminating all of that. My bold goal that I've been talking about on this show here lately is I'm going to build $100 million freight brokerage with 10 people, because there is the automation and AI available today that can do that. In 2 years from now, hell, probably even 12 months from now, Adam, that's going to be a lock, right? So it's like that's where things are. And again, but here's what you can never automate. My conversations with my customer when a market shift happens. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen this. It's going to be business as usual. It's my job to insulate you from this. It's my job to make sure your freight is protected at all times. And there's nothing I'm seeing right now that is an anomaly that I've never experienced before. And that's my message to my customers today, right? And that's my message on this show to a lot of people when we're doing, I'll do a lane analysis 3 times a week. And I'll tell people, you guys, the market's stabilized, right? The data doesn't lie. Emotions can be messed with. The data doesn't lie. All right. You can look at a rolling 12-month lane analysis on DAT and see the lanes are performing the exact same way. Peak season still the same. Slow season still the same. The only difference is the rate. All right. So that to me is what needs to be like, you got to insulate your customers from this, because it's like, hey, you know what? Say capacity is slowing down. Say capacity is tightening up in your market. Let your customer know that and let them provide them options. I'm like, hey, I know you want to ship this on a Tuesday. I got a driver locked in for you on a Wednesday. Again, it's a day later, but this is a locked truck. You've experienced this where delays are happening. People aren't telling you that they're not able to cover the freight. Here's a lock. Do you want this truck or not? And more often than not, your customers are going to say, yes, please lock that truck in. And then the more you do that, and then again, the more you tell them, hey, this is my day that it's available, here's your rate, and then you execute upon that in a tight market, your customers are going to love you because you're doing what nobody else is. Most people sell on fear, and then it comes in they wait till the last minute, where it's like, dude, if I fail on a load, and we fail on loads, we're human beings. Guess what? My customer knows it's 6 a.m. the day of pickup, right? Or even better, the afternoon prior. If something happens, I am not afraid to let somebody know that we're potentially running into an issue, because as a business owner, all I ask is my vendors talk to me about stuff, right? I don't need anything other than an update, right? Like, hey, here's what's going on. We apologize. There's a delay here. And 99% of the time, your customers are cool with it because they just want the truth.
They'd be in that position either way, and it's better to be in that position with you. And as long as you communicate and set the right expectations, soft skills are going to be pretty important in the future.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think your ability, like we've been kind of talking about a lot, to prove that you're an actual human being is going to be the greatest sales strategy that I don't know has ever existed, right? And it might just be showing up old school, knocking on somebody's door and introducing yourself like that. But dude, this flew by, Adam. I could talk to you forever, man. And you love what you do. It's so evident every time we talk, man. Like you are in the best possible role that for you and your skill set. So I just love to you about this stuff, man.
It's fun, man. And it's fun to be at the center of some pretty cool companies doing some pretty cool things that impact the economy, that are in the halls of Congress representing other freight brokers. And being at the center of this AI revolution and being the one that gets to tell these stories and hear from these founders, I can't believe I get paid to do this, man.
I love it. Adam, how does anybody reach out to you if they want to find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, probably the best place right now is the-robinson-agency.com, or look me up on LinkedIn.
Perfect. If you guys can't find Adam or the Robinson Agency out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard today and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.